WVTT is the news station that brings you news and information that you can depend on. We are first, fast, and accurate, bringing you the only local television news in the Twin Tiers. WVTT, depend on it.
Taking our first look at weather now on WVTT, we'll definitely be seeing a few clouds during the overnight hours, but I'm going for at least a poke of moonshine as well. Low temperature 30 degrees. Those clouds continue to roll in tomorrow, and that's going to bring some rain, but by the weekend, unseasonably mild temperatures into the 50s, Alexa.
And with those mild temperatures and that rain, but lower temperatures at night, we could see that thick ice building up. You know, that snow got packed down. With a layer of rain on top of that and freezing temperatures, you got a thick chunk of ice that could be really dangerous. Jeff.
That's right. We'll have complete weather details coming up from meteorologist Jim Rinaldi here on WVTT.
Now, WVTT Global News Update.
Cyber attacks on several U.S. banks have gotten the government's attention. Our Brian Todd reports why the government doesn't think it's the work of rogue hackers.
Experts say they've never seen anything like it, a massive onslaught of cyber attacks on America's biggest banks, slowing down their websites, even forcing some to shut down temporarily, costing them money.
This is now, as a persistent threat, been the longest industrial sector attack that we've seen in the recorded cyber attack history.
The security firm Radware has investigated the attacks for the banks. They say it's been happening in 3 waves since September, with 2 attacks in just the past month. What makes this so alarming? The total number of banks attacked, 20 of America's top institutions. Carl Herberger of Radware won't name them, but CNN had confirmed during the first wave that these 5 had been hit. Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, US Bank, and PNC Bank. The scope and sophistication of the attacks, according to experts, points to a nation being behind this, not just a loose group of hackers. When the wave started in September, Senator Joe Lieberman, then chairman of the Homeland Security Committee, said, "I think this was done by Iran." Analyst James Lewis agrees, saying it's likely retaliation for previous cyber attacks on Iran and for other things.
The Iranians have paid a lot of attention since Stuxnet to cybersecurity and to developing their own attack capabilities. The trigger in this case was probably some attacks by unknown foreign parties against Iran's main oil terminal, Karg Island, back in the summer. And that appears to have led them to, retaliate and respond. And it's a good way to make a point that they aren't happy with sanctions.
Carl Herberger of Radware says Iran may not be behind this. Whoever it is, how are they doing it?
Hackers often lasso a bunch of computers, making them do their bidding, just overflowing websites with requests and slowing them down or shutting them down. But in this case, experts say the hackers, possibly Iran, are not just taking control of a bunch of computers, but entire data centers, which bring more firepower to attack the banks. And Herberger says the hackers are also infiltrating the encryption process, the way we secure our online payments.
Herberger says no accounts have been breached, no money has been stolen, but
these attacks are harbingers for the onslaught of potentially data leakage attacks or integrity-based attacks.
Meaning people's accounts could soon be breached. Contacted by CNN, an Iranian official at the UN said this is a false allegation that Iran is behind the attacks, that his government categorically denies being behind them, and that this is an attempt to poison the climate of negotiations over its nuclear program. Brian Todd, CNN, Washington.
Vice President Joe Biden kicked off his gun violence task force Wednesday by meeting with gun safety groups and gun violence survivors. Today, he sat down with representatives from the National Rifle Association. Ed Payne has our story.
The National Rifle Association has made its position clear: no new gun laws. The organization has actively lobbied to prevent any new legislation limiting guns, saying we should enforce the gun laws already on the books. But Vice President Joe Biden made it clear that the White House intends to take action to reduce gun violence.
If the president is going to act, or executive orders, executive action that can be taken, we haven't decided what that is yet, but we're compiling it all with the help of the Attorney General and all the rest of the cabinet members, as well as legislative action we believe is required.
With the gun debate heating up, gun and ammunition sales are heating up as well. Many gun enthusiasts are stocking up on weapons and ammo, fearing they could be outlawed. Jay Wallace, an ammunition distributor in Atlanta, has seen a big boost in sales.
This is probably, in my lifetime, in my business lifetime, there's been more demand for ammunition than there's ever been. We're having law enforcement agencies that are coming in buying ammunition off the shelf.
Walmart, the nation's largest retailer, now says its executive will also meet with Biden's gun violence task force. They initially had declined. I'm Ed Payne reporting.
Have to reach out. They reached out to us and said.
And while Vice President Biden was meeting with representatives of the NRA, there's an Ohio program out there that wants to put guns in the hands of teachers. The program trains them how to handle weapons in the event of an emergency. And as Dan DeRoos reports, people in several other states are lining up behind the initiative.
We think we owe it to those teachers to give them the tools and the skills to do something besides die when they step in front of our children to defend their life.
Jim Irvine is president of the Buckeye Firearm Foundation, which announced a couple of weeks ago they are going to start training teachers across the state free of charge to carry weapons in school.
When we call 911 in a school, what are we calling? We're calling police, people with guns, to come solve our problem. The killing continues until they meet some resistance.
In just a couple weeks' time, they've already received some 900 applications. They will only be accepting 24 educators for this first training session. That class will only be teachers and staff who already have their concealed weapons permits. There will be extra background checks, training on marksmanship, safety, and first aid. Of course, the other side of this argument is trying to keep guns out of schools altogether. Lisa Cicio is one of the local voices of the Million Mom March.
Do you really want your schools to look like prisons? Do you want your schools to have boarded windows and armed guards at every door? Do you want your teachers wielding guns?
Taking a look at WVTT's Wall Street Wrap-Up. It's presented by News Radio 96.7 WVTT. Up numbers across the boards on Wall Street. The Dow up almost 81 points, closing at 13,471. NASDAQ up almost 16, closing at 3121.76. And the S&P 500 up just over 11, closing at 1472. Coming up on Twin Tiers Evening News, a look at WVTT Sports, our community calendar, and also meteorologist Jim Rinaldi has a rainy and warm forecast. Stick around for complete weather details here on News Channel 25 WVTT.